Hey everyone, Dylan here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my next review of the next arc in Naruto, the Leaf Destruction arc, and I apologize that my review of the tuning exams was like 24 minutes. I feel like that's a bit long. And then I looked back and I was like thinking about the tuning exams, and I was like, the tuning exams is kind of long, now that I think about it. It's like, because you got the before the exams start, you got the first part, you got the second part, you got the preliminary round part before the third part, then you have the month before the third part, then you have the third part. So there's like a lot of stuff there. So I just kind of realized it's kind of long, but I still could have shortened it up, so my bad on that. Hopefully, the Leaf Destruction arc is a bit shorter. Spoilers. You didn't make it shorter. You didn't. After this arc, of course, I'll be doing the, Searching for Tsunade arc, or something like that. That's like the thing I'm watching currently right now. But without further ado, we will get into the Leaf Destruction arc. So, we kind of left off where Gaara was fighting Sasuke, and Sasuke had used his Chidori and was all cool and pretty much stabbed Gaara. And then the Kazekage was next to the Hokage and pretty much did the signal thing for the attack on the village to start, for the Sand Village and Sound to start attacking. And then he goes to attack the third Hokage, and we end up just pretty much finding out that the Kazekage isn't the actual Kazekage. He is Orochimaru. Surprise, surprise, right? And the Anbu Black Ops try to come and help, but Orochimaru has these 4 ninja from the Sound to, they both get into this square formation around where the third Hokage and Orochimaru is, and make a barrier. So they're trapped inside and to do their fight. And I think a Black Ops member tries to go in there, but when he touches the barrier, he just dies or burns, sets on fire or something like that. So it's just a one-on-one fight there. And with Orochimaru and the third Hokage, we learn that Orochimaru was the third Hokage, Hiruzen's teacher, student. He was his student, and feeling a little nostalgic, having to try to kill his sensei, and vice versa with Hiruzen trying to, having to kill Orochimaru, and we kind of learn more about that. But in the meantime, Kakashi and Guy end up fighting a bunch of ninja from the sand or whatever. That's all they did the whole arc. I think it's kind of lame. I'm gonna be really honest. These guys are super powerful. We know that Guy trained Lee in being able to do why is my brain not thinking about it? The 8 inner gates. We know how powerful he is. He could have just opened them up and destroyed all of them. And Kakashi's super powerful. I know they had to take down these riffraff ninja, but they could have did it a lot sooner and then went to help the Hokage faster. I just hate how they were just stuck there the whole time. I get that they had to do it to try to nerf them because they're broken. They would have ruined things. But I don't know. That's kind of a nitpick I have there about that. But no, they end up during this, Shikamaru and Naruto. A lot of people get put to sleep through Genjutsu, but Naruto gets woken up. Shikamaru pretends to be asleep, and Kakashi tells I forgot in all this Gaara fled because he was injured with his squad mates, and Sasuke followed. So Kakashi summons a dog, Pakun I think was his name, and having him and Shikamaru, Sakura, and Naruto. I apologize if you hear meowing in the background. I have a cat, and she's just meowing right now, so I apologize for that. But And so he orders them to go and get Sasuke, and so like to stop tailing Gaara, basically. So they're going off to do that. It's kind of hard because there's two different things happening at once, right? There's that mission for them to go do that, and then there's the fight with the third Hokage and Orochimaru. And so I guess we'll start with some of the fighting in the Orochimaru part. So Orochimaru goes to fight him, and he's ready for it. You know, he's ready for the fight. And Hiruzen, the third Hokage, Sarutobi. I don't know what. I don't know what to call him at this point. But ends up fighting him. He does some different jutsu. He does like a fire style jutsu. He does earth style jutsu. He does like a shadow shuriken jutsu, and some different stuff like that to fight against Orochimaru. And then Orochimaru does a summoning jutsu, kind of. He does this jutsu called the reanimation jutsu, I think. And it's a forbidden jutsu, and it brings people back from the dead. And he ends up bringing back to life the first, second Hokages. He tries to do the fourth one, but somehow... or whatever, like Hiruzen, the third Hokage, ends up stopping the fourth one from happening, I guess. And then so he's now having to fight Orochimaru, the first and second Hokages, and that ends up being very difficult for him, because, you know, he we see like the wood style kind of jutsu from the first Hokage, and the second Hokage's like jutsu and all that. So Sarutobi ends up kind of becoming in a pinch in there at some points, but so we'll just kind of freeze there from there. It is cool that we get to kind of see a little bit of what the other like Hokage can do, and like so, because like, you know, we've heard them and seen them. It's like, okay, well, so we finally get to see a little bit of them, but I mean, it's nothing compared to what they actually can do. But in like later. But anyways, so we'll like move back to Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru and the dog, where they're like trying to they use the dog to get the scent of Sasuke, and they're like trailing. And as they're trying to get to Sasuke, who's trying to get to Gaara, the dog ends up sensing that there's like basically a group, like, I don't know, like 7-8 freaking ninja following them, tailing them as well. And so it just becomes they're trying to like not get caught, and so there's kind of this kind of thing. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of different. Like I said, there were a bunch of different. Each kind of arc of Naruto is different, and so I think it's really cool and diverse. It's kind of like Hunter x Hunter in a way, but because, you know, you have your first thing where, you know, everything's getting started. You go to the land of Wade, and the next you have like this exam, which has so many different parts in it, and a tournament arc in it. And then now you're like with this Leaf Destruction arc, so they're being trailed, and they have to like try to not be tracked. And Shikamaru ends up staying behind to get them off their trail. Shikamaru actually does a pretty cool thing. Sakura doubts him heavily, but, you know, he's cooler than she thinks. But he ends up stalling them for a bit, and then we think he's screwed, and then Asuma, his sensei, comes and helps him out and saves his butt, and so that's kind of what happens with that. Think they keep pursuing them. I will say the pursuing parts are kind of boring a little bit, but that's just a part of it, right? Eventually, Sasuke does catch up with them, and like Temari ends up hanging back to try to stall him at some points, and then eventually Shino, the bug guy, ends up fighting Kankuro, and Sasuke continues to track Gaara, and Naruto and Sakura continue to track Sasuke, and it's just kind of that thing. And the fight with, who cares, right? Who cares about the fight with Shino and Kankuro? I mean, maybe when you were a kid, you kind of cared a little bit, but I mean, as an adult, I'm just like, I don't care, man. Like, you guys don't matter. I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of how I felt. The fight was alright, I guess. Like, poison versus poison, bug versus Conqueror's puppet jutsu and all that. So, I don't know. But, yeah, that ends up happening, and then Sasuke eventually does catches up with Gaara and starts to fight him, and Gaara ends up getting this sand. He starts transforming into this sand monster just gradually, and eventually, like, Sasuke just can't handle him, and ends up being scared of him, to be real honest. So that kind of happens, and then Naruto and Sakura get there, and Sakura ends up getting trapped by Gaara and with sand, and if Naruto and Sasuke don't stop him soon enough, the sand will eventually crush Sakura and kill her. So she becomes Princess Peach, Sakura being useless as usual. And so where do I flip back to? Okay, so we're gonna kind of go back to the Hiruzen fight a little bit. So with Orochimaru, so their kind of fight is going on, and at some point, Hiruzen summons his Monkey King Emma. I don't remember the name, to be real honest, but he's a summon who is helping fight. He actually turns into this weapon, this pole type weapon that can get bigger and stuff. So that kind of happens. A thing that is kind of discussed is that because Hiruzen, the third Hokage, is so old, he's not as strong nearly as he used to be. And I don't actually know how old he is. I don't really remember. Maybe he's in his 70s, maybe 70s or 80s. But he ends up running into some trouble and realizes he's not really completely strong enough to beat Orochimaru, so he ends up coming out with this jutsu. He's telling Orochimaru, I have a jutsu that even you've never seen, and it's called Reaper Death Seal. Now, when they first were saying this in the anime, when I was watching it as a kid, I thought they were saying Rebirth Death Seal. I was like, what is a Rebirth Death Seal? But it's Reaper Death Seal, not Rebirth. So yeah, so that's the thing. And it's basically, he summons some shadow clones, and he ends up having them grab the first and second Hokage, and it's basically a super mega sealing jutsu that apparently the fourth Hokage used to seal the nine-tailed fox, and he sealed them, and then made them stop. And then he goes to grab Orochimaru to try to seal him. And what ends up happening, at the cost of Hiruzen's life, is how this works. He can seal these people. And basically, there's this Grim Reaper that appears once he's got him. He basically pulls his soul out. And it gets sealed in the Reaper, and they all get sealed in the Reaper's stomach, I guess, or soul, in the Reaper or whatever. And so he grabs onto Orochimaru's soul and starts trying to pull it out and playing tug of war there, and that kind of happens for a while. So we're just gonna leave off there, going back to where Sasuke and Naruto have to fight Gaara. Gaara, like I said, keeps transforming, and then Naruto, we see some development from Sasuke a little bit, saying he got telling him to get Sakura away, that he doesn't want to see his comrades, his friends, die ever again, and so that's kind of a thing. And so Naruto, ends up getting a power boost here because he's protecting his friends, and he's stronger protecting his friends and all that stuff. And so he starts fighting Gaara, and honestly, if Gaara wasn't used his real sand, Naruto would have never been able to touch him, to be real honest, because he didn't have that sand shield, because the sand was all on him. So Naruto kind of got an easier Gaara, to be really honest. If we're being honest, before he transformed into the giant form, he got an easier Gaara. And so Naruto summons he summons a ridiculous amount of clones. I don't remember how many, And he starts just like beating, like, I don't know, like 1,000 kicks or something, like 2,000 punches, I don't know, something like that, something crazy. And he like does all this stuff to break down like his armor, and then he ends up doing Kakashi's 1,000 years of death, and like stabs like a kunai in Gaara's butt. But it was like a ruse, because everyone's just like, oh my god, really, Naruto? But it actually had a paper bomb attached to it, and it like exploded, and damaged Gaara a little bit. I don't know, I didn't really do that much, but honestly, that's the only time I ever remember Naruto using paper bombs in the series. Like, there's other people who have used them and like all that, but like that's the only time I remember Naruto ever using paper bombs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was it. But so he continues to fight Gaara, and Sasuke is starting his inferiority complex, because like he's like, man, when did Naruto get so strong? And then Gaara goes insane and then turns into the Shukaku, the one-tailed, and he's the giant sand monster, and Sasuke is crapping his pants at this point. He's like, what? Like, and then Naruto busts out the summoning jutsu and summons the giant toad, Gamabunta. He summons him, and Sasuke's just like crapping himself even more, like, how did you do that? How can you do this, Naruto? Like, yeah, but this is like when pretty much the shift kind of happens where like Naruto is stronger than Sasuke. You could kind of debate that like it seems like Naruto's more stronger than Sasuke at this point in time, and Sasuke's starting to get the inferiority complex. That's just like the development here. And so Naruto ends up, working with Gamabunta to fight the Shukaku. He fights him, and a lot of big, cool monster battle action happens. It's actually really cool. And then Gaara ends up putting himself to sleep, because if he sleeps, then he gets possessed by the Shukaku. And then his real power comes out, and the Shukaku comes out, and Gamabunta's like, you gotta like basically like punch him in the face to like wake him up, so like the possession stops, because he's really powerful. And so what ends up happening is like the frog tries to grab him, but he like doesn't have any fingers and claws, so he's like, Naruto, we gotta do a transformation jutsu. And they end up doing a transformation jutsu to he ends up turning into the guy, the Gamabunta, into the nine-tailed fox, which is kind of interesting, I guess. It's kind of cool, I guess, in the beginning. And so he ends up doing that. Naruto ends up, I think he headbutts him, actually. I'm pretty sure Naruto ends up headbutting him or punching him. He ends up headbutting him, Gaara, at one point. I do remember that. But he ends up waking him up. And Naruto's pretty much spent, but Gaara still has some fight, and he starts to get the sand around Naruto. And I think this is when he headbutts him. The sand's like wrapping around Naruto. The frog tries to help him, but Naruto ends up summoning the Nine Tails power, and then busts out of there. And then that's when I think he like headbutts him. I think he's even like, I'm sick of you. I've had enough with you, or something like that. And I think that's when he headbutts him. And that ends up kind of ending it. Well, they end up like falling onto some trees, and then Gaara, or the frog, ends up disappearing because his energy is up, and his son was there too, but that's minor. And Naruto and Gaara jump off the trees to go punch each other. That's the first time we ever really. I mean, it's weird to think of Gaara punching someone, but so they punch each other, and they fall, and Gaara can no longer move, and then Naruto's trying to like inch himself towards Gaara, because Naruto's just in battle mode. Like he's just like inching himself with his chin, even though he's got really nothing left, and like Like freaking Gaara is the one who's scared of him. I need to talk about like the symbolism here in this fight. I just wanted to talk about the fighting stuff first, but I'll just end it off with like Sasuke, and it's like, you know, it's that's enough, Naruto. Sakura's safe. You did it. You won, basically. And so yeah, and Sasuke is very jealous about this. You know, like I said, his inferiority complex. But yeah, so Naruto and Gaara, it kind of shows two sides of the same coin, in that Gaara, you know, had the sand spirit in him, while Naruto has the nine-tailed fox, and like Gaara has the one-tailed, and how everyone was afraid of Gaara, and then people tried to end up killing Gaara because they felt like he was a threat, he was a monster, and all this stuff, and everyone was afraid of him, and he was alone and didn't have anybody, and had a lot of bad crap happen to him, honestly. And it's kind of like, maybe it's like, oh man, Naruto's like, we're the same, but we're different because of what happened. And he's like, could I have became like that? You know, Naruto had the potential to become a monster like that. And become monstrous and kill people. Like, because Gaara's thing was he killed people to know that he was alive. To, like, know his existence was true. And so Naruto could have ended up like that if he didn't end up getting, like, if he stayed alone and stuff. So it shows that kind of interesting thing about the two sides of, you know, they had kind of the same things about them, but they had two different things happening that changed their course. And so that kind of ends up changing Gaara for the better later on. But, so that's kind of cool, and that's where that kind of ends. And then, man, I'm going to make this long video regardless, aren't I? I'm sorry, guys, even though the arc itself isn't that long. There's a lot that happens here too, but so we're pretty much at the end now. So we go back to Orochimaru and the third Hokage. At some point, Orochimaru ends up getting his sword, which he can like telepathically like make move, and he ends up getting it to stab through Hiruzen at some point, and the monkey and King Enma is trying to like pull it out, but there comes to a point where you know, the third Hokage is talking about, you know, how your ambitions end here. I'm not going to let you, you can't just destroy the Leaf Village. The village has the will of fire, and that all the shinobi in the village are stronger than he anticipated. And so Hiruzen's pretty much just like, you know, I don't have the strength to pull the rest of your soul out. We both know that, but your ambitions will still end here. And so he ends up giving all his strength, and he pulls basically Orochimaru's arms out. Because Orochimaru is obsessed with learning jutsu. He's obsessed with forbidden jutsu and knowing all the jutsu in the world. And so he's not able to actually kill him, but he takes his arms and he has the Reaper cut the soul from his arms. And so his arms turn, I think, I don't know, they turn into this weird color, and apparently, and then they have this endless burning in them, the burden of pain that Orochimaru can have. And Orochimaru can no longer use his jutsu, he can no longer use his arms. And so Hokage ends up dying, sacrificing himself, showing what a Hokage is supposed to do. He views everyone in the village as his own son, as his sons and daughters, as his family, and he will risk his life for that. And Orochimaru pretty much loses the battle. I mean, he technically wins the battle because the third Hokage is dead, but he loses the war. He has to pull out. Everyone's defeated, and so the plan to destroy the leaf fails. They did do some great damage, but it still fails. I'm honestly a little upset here because there's a part of this that there's another complaint, how Kakashi and Guy were so busy with all these other ninjas. It's we know you're more powerful now. You could have just ran through them really quickly and then maybe went to help the Hokage. That's my one thing. But also Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sani, he's supposed to be on par with Orochimaru, didn't go to help the third Hokage. He helped fight a little bit on some of the riffraff, but he didn't do anything else. And it's You have this powerful guy. He could have been the tipping point. He could have saved the third Hokage, which is also his sensei. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. I hate that kind of part of it. So there's a couple things in the Leaf Destruction arc that I kind of hate. But suffice to say, Orochimaru ends up fleeing and running away. And that's kind of the end to that. And then the Sand ends up learning that Orochimaru killed the Kazekage and impersonated him, and the Leaf ends up learning about that, and so it's kind of a moot point. So like the Sand completely surrenders. You know, it's not completely their fault. They were following their Kazekage's orders and all that. So, which was Orochimaru impersonating them, and then they have like the funeral for the third Hokage. It had some when I was a kid, it had some, like, the music was really sad, the piano, and it was really somber with the rain and everyone dressed in black and stuff, so it is really interesting, an interesting end part to that. So that in its whole was the Leaf Destruction arc. I really hope this wasn't too long. I gotta get better than this, but I had some gripes about it here and there with a couple parts. The tracking Sasuke and Sasuke tracking Gaara did kind of get a little boring at some parts, and then the whole stuff about Jiraiya not helping out like he should have, and I feel like Guy and Kakashi could have swept through the ninjas that they were fighting to help the third Hokage faster, and then the Anbu didn't do anything, and they're supposed to be the elite ninja. They just sat there like not being able to do anything. So I don't know. I kind of feel like I realistically, right, the ninja could have done more to stop this and help the third Hokage, so that's kind of an annoyance in my opinion. But yeah, that's my review of the Leaf Destruction arc Naruto anime. And next time we're going to do the Searching for Tsunade arc, Finding Tsunade arc, whatever the heck it's called. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for listening. Let me know how you feel about the Leaf Destruction arc and all that good stuff. So thank you guys. I will see you in the next video.